King and Johnny Putman on WGNRadio. Somebody knocking on my door. You're listening to one of the tracks from New Moves, the Chess Project, a wonderful album produced by record royalty Marshall Chess, son of the legendary Chess Records co-founder Leonard Chess, and we're lucky enough to have Marshall on the phone with us. Marshall, can you tell us a little bit about how you were able to get the concept you had in your mind onto the record?
That's an easy one. In 1983, after I finished with the Rolling Stones after 7 years, I got married. I moved up to the Catskill Mountains, where I live now. My wife got pregnant, and I was thinking, what am I going to do now? You know, I'm going to have to work. I want to become a role model for my kid. I don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl, but I got to do something to make some money. And I was approached by some lawyers who said, we want Chess Records. You know, the catalog was bought by a small record label in New Jersey named Sugar Hill, and we want you to buy it back. We'll finance it, give you 49%. You can run it. Will you go try to buy it back for us? We'll raise the money. And I said, wow, I didn't even know that had happened. And I went out. I was living in New York, so it was a few hours away. I made an appointment to see this man, Joe Robinson, the president of Sugar Hill Records. I knew nothing about Sugar Hill Records other than they were, a black label that had hits, and they somehow had acquired the Chess catalog. And I went in to see this guy, Joe Robinson, and, I went into the office. I said, I want to buy it. I'll offer you $1 million for the Chess catalog. You haven't put out anything yet. I heard, you got it somehow. He said, Marshall, I'd kiss your white butt. If you had come here 3 months ago, he said, me and Sylvia, that was his wife, Sylvia Robinson, we just made millions of dollars. We got the biggest record we've ever had, and was the first really giant rap hip-hop record called Rapper's Delight by the Sugar Hill Gang. Mm-hmm. And he said, I just bought a Rolls Royce last week for Sylvia. He said, what can I do to get you to help me with this Chess catalog? Well, like I said, I wanted to make some money, so I made a deal with him. And I went there. I said, I got to hire a couple of people, and we'll put out albums. So I did that. We put out about 7 albums. I hired one person and a second one. And then he started owing me money. And I said, well, instead of you paying me, he had 2 recording studios. I had been hanging out. I love musicians. I love recording studios. I love making records. I was hanging out in studios constantly. That was right at the beginning of electronic music. It was really live. Rap, hip-hop music was live music behind it. And they had this fabulous band there. It was like one of the Chess bands. And I became very friendly with all of them. And 2 of them are on this album. Keith LeBlanc, the hardcore producer of the record, who unfortunately passed away last month, he's not enjoying all the success we're getting with this record, unfortunately, which you can hear from heaven, wherever he is. But he was a drummer from 4 years old, one of those child prodigies. Mm-hmm. And Skip McDonald, who in England is known as Little Axe, had his own career he's like a star in England. He was part of the Sugar Hill rhythm section. And, I got to know all these guys, and Keith LeBlanc and I got the idea to make a rap 12-inch record, and we used the speeches of Malcolm X and made a record called No Sellout, which became like a hip-hop classic. In England, it was a big hit, one of those first 12-inch rap records. During the same time, Sugar Hill had a lot of big hits. They had White Lines, they had Grandmaster Flash, Wheels of Steel. They had all these big million sellers. So I ended up that deal ended up not doing so well. They ended up not paying me after I put out that rap record. I went back to the country, but I stayed friends with all those musicians. And then years later, we got an idea. I got the idea to add the original, since I said Sugar Hill owns these masters, let's get the voices of Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, and add them. We'll make new tracks. And this guy, Keith LeBlanc, him and I made new tracks, and we added these voices. And then we had trouble getting legal permission from Universal, who now owned the Chess catalog by that time. They didn't want to give us permission, so that was the original idea. And some of the songs were the same. And then during COVID, I had some surgery. I was laying on my back. I was bored. I decided I wanted to do something to keep active. And he was bored. Everyone was home, bored.
Right. Yeah.
And we started talking.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second and hit the pause button because we're going to break at COVID.
Well, hang in there. We'll be right back on WGN.
Squall, crying. I believe I've changed my mind. She said, I'm so glad I'm living. Baby, I'm so glad you're mine.
Steve King and Johnnie Putman on WGN Radio. You're listening to one of the wonderful cuts from the album New Moves, the Chess Project. And this is one of the many cuts on the album that, to me, is like a mini history lesson. I mean, you listen to the current version with Bernard Fowler doing the vocals, and I think back to when I first heard that, which was on Elvis Presley's second album, when he did it as a track called So Glad You're Mine. But then if you go back to the original version was by Arthur Big Boy Crudup, who was a blues performer who also did That's All Right Mama and My Baby Left Me and things like that. So it's like you can trace the history back to the beginning of all of these songs, and that's one of the fun side trips you can take when you listen to this album.
And we are tracing the history of this new album called New Moves. It's the Chess Project, and with us is Marshall Chess. Now, Marshall, we were talking about the fact that you were flat of your back, you had some back surgery, and you were bored, like everybody in the whole wide world.
Bored.
Yeah.
And Keith called me up, and he said, by that time has flown. He's gotten over. He built a studio in Connecticut. So he learned how to be an engineer, and he mastered the time. Had changed from that first story I told you about having to record single track mono.
Yeah,
now it was recording via the internet. He said, Marshall, we can make this record. And he said, I know the best musicians in the world. They're all home. I can do this. Let's start. You can pay them with PayPal. We can make a record, this record. So we did it, man. Musicians. Wow. So again, using the old chess philosophy, the best players make the best music, man.
Yeah.
And this album's got amazing people. Eric Gales, who played with Santana on guitar. Paul Lewinsky, he's the last of the great upright bass players. He played with all the Keith Richards stuff. He played with, it's amazing. Mono Neon played with Prince. We heard about this bass player, a girl from Bombay, India. We put her on Mohini Day. The harmonica player was Alan Glenn, who originally was with the Kinks. Remember that English band?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So these are some of the best players. And we did it. We put it all together and mixed it. And the magic remained. I was shocked. And because of COVID, we had a lot of time, and everyone loved doing it. And that's really how it developed. I picked all the songs really based on a lot of my life experiences.
Right.
Unfortunately, I've had a lot of female problems in my life. And I discovered long ago that the great part about blues, it was like going to a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
That's right, yes.
You had trouble with a woman. Yeah, you had trouble with a woman. You found out like another 10 million men had the same problem.
And you could just cry.
If your girlfriend cheated on you, another 10 million men, they had that,
Hey, Marshall,
so
it goes... It goes the other way, too, believe me.
Yeah,
Women being cheated on by men.
Yes. So I picked these songs, but by now, and then I picked two about being old, because I'm old. You know, the song Mother Earth. Both my younger sister died accidental deaths, and I always played that song Mother Earth because it's so poetic. You know, no matter how rich you are, no matter what you do, everyone's going back to Mother Earth. It sort of makes, so I picked all these songs, and we've got all these guys together, and one girl, Mohini, and it came out great, it really did.
Can we get you to go back to the to your early family and actually the name of the label now?
Yeah, the record label is spelled CZYZ. I don't want to try to pronounce it.
It's hard. It's in Polish. It would be Chez. And my grandfather, basically, there was a famous book written about my family called "Spinning Blues into Gold." That's when I discovered that was the first name. It was on the manifest on the boat that they came over on. And I guess when my grandfather, who came 7 years before the rest of the family, from a small village in Poland, which is now in Belarus, which was called Muttle. And when he got to Ellis Island, they said, "What's your name?" And he said, "Joseph Ches." He said, "It's Chess now in America," and that's how the name Chess happened.
Wow.
So I found that out, and I made that the name of my production company.
I love it.
Pronounce it, they all called CZYZ. So
CZYZ. Ches, that is a really cool story, and how neat. And your son works with you too, right, Jamar?
My son, who I laid on, I told him when he was in high school, I said, go in the music business. There's nothing more fun. You don't have to wear suits and ties. You can go all around the world. It's just fun. I never, even to this day, I've never felt I worked today. I've loved every second of I love now talking to you about it, And he went into it, and after he produced, I took him to Italy. He had his first sale of an Italian rap record. He met an Italian rapper in college, and he produced it. And I showed him, and he tried to sell it. And then he worked with me as a music publisher. And now he's a very successful music publisher with, believe it or not, mostly Latin music. Spanish
cool.
Music. He did all the music on that famous Netflix series, Narcos. All that music on there was from him, he's the third generation record man, we call him. Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Can you tell us a little bit about Bernard Fowler, who does the vocals? What a great voice.
Well, so we needed a vocalist for this project. And we kept thinking, who shall we use? And I knew about Bernard because Bernard, as well as being one of the best R&B vocalists I've ever heard. I mean, he does any style. He can sing opera. He's just a fabulous vocalist. He's been singing and traveling with the Rolling Stones for 15 years. He's on the side of the stage when Keith and Mick sing their parts. He fattens them up. He's that good. You don't even know. And he also does all the background parts from on the stage.
Wow.
So we knew about him, and he agreed to do it. He's touring with him now. They're about to go on a 20-city tour. Mm-hmm. And he's going to go out with, he's doing, so we got him, and I said, Bernard, he said, well, how do I approach this? I said, just listen to all the old, I want you to, if it's a Muddy Waters song, think of Muddy Waters when he was young, not as an old folk singer to white people. Think how he was when he was playing those bars on the west side in Chicago.
Right.
Think that energy. And he got it, he really got it, And I had one thought, I'll tell you, it was sort of a funny story, a good music story. The last track we did, Help Me, which is the most unique, different original track I feel on the album. But he wouldn't sing it the way Keith and I wanted to. He just wouldn't do it. As well as being a great singer, he's also got a big ego, and he hates to take direction. He's a rock boy. It's one of those types. But I'm good at it. I've been doing it my whole life. So so we decided to take it a step past the internet. Now, by this time, you could do it where I could virtually be there. I'm sitting where I am now in my chair in upstate New York. He was in a studio in L.A. I was actually at the board. I was like sitting there looking at him through the window, and Keith was in Connecticut in a little window. And so I was virtually there with him, so I could push him, with live real time. And he still wouldn't do it right. And I told him that story I told you about my dad telling me, take another one, take another one.
Yeah.
It's my first. And I told him that story, and I said, Bernard, I did that with Mick Jagger. He said, what, with Mick? Mick listened to you? I said, yeah. I said, we were recording live with our truck at Stargrove's Mick house. It was the middle of the night, and I was in the truck, and Mick was doing the vocal to the famous song "Moonlight Mile." You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
And I was very shy with the Stones at first. I was at all the sessions, but I didn't give them too much push or direction. But I thought he could do that better. And I said, Bernard, I kept telling Mick, do it again, do it again, do it again. And I said, he did, and it came out great. He said, well, if Mick could do it, I could do it. And then he went and turned around and did the song just the way we wanted it.
I love that.
And it was good enough for Mick, you could do it,
That is too cool.
Well, congratulations on a wonderful
Yes.
album. People can get it at their.
I checked. You can
Amazon.
download it. You can
any download site in the world, you can get it.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Before we say goodnight, I have to ask you, since we've spent a little bit of time talking about your history and your dad, what do you think your dad would say about this new CD, New Moves, the Chess Project?
He always told me with all my projects, he said, remember, man, if you're too far ahead of time, it's like being too far behind time. He was always worried, because we did that all the time at chess. We took a lot of chances with music. Rotary. But after Rotary Connection, he trusted me. He thought that was crazy.
You proved it.
He thought I was crazy. He was shocked. I became the star of the family because it took off. You remember, it's still a big station, WLS in Chicago.
Sure.
I used to work there.
Right. WLS, Art Roberts was the disc jockey.
Yep.
And he played Rotary, and Rotary had so big in Chicago. And all of a sudden, got all these big orders. My father looked at me and said, I can't believe it. You were right, You took a chance. And he says, now you know how it feels when you take a chance and you hit it,
Yeah.
And Marshall, with Chuck Berry, he took that chance, and the birth of rock and roll happened on Michigan Avenue,
Amen.
I know New York is home for you now, but if you ever get back to Chicago, we would love to get you in the studio and meet you in person. This has been an absolute kick.
I promise you, if I take another road trip, I'm going to take you up on that. I'm always into promoting land. I'll have another record by then.
Okay.
Good. I have no doubt. And congratulations on New Moves.
And I'm thrilled to be on the station WGN, my old Chicago home station.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great.
Take care, Marshall.
It's a real pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
What a kick.
Yeah. I love the fact that he's so energetic about this project.
82 years old, and he's pumped.
And it's an hour later there in New York, and he's chomping at the bit. I love his stories, too.
And you can hear his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And honestly, it is a wonderful album.
We didn't say this, but people should know these are not covers of chess music. This is original material.
It's original material. Some of it is some of the older songs done in a much different way. They're all new tracks.
Exactly.
Really, really good stuff. And the album is called New Moves, The Chess Project. More coming up. Stay with us at WGN.